So today I'm going to announce the winner of the Don't Touch Your Face giveaway contest that I had this past week. And the winner was selected randomly by a computer. So I did want to show you that how that was done. And so the winner of either the set of needles or the crochet bundle is Brandy Stevenson. So congratulations, Brandy. And I'll just show you the screen where the computer actually picked the winner. I blacked out her email address, so that's what that is. The other thing that I wanted to go over today was I had quite a few inquiries, people wanting to make different projects, and they want me to put a kit together or some yarn together for let's say a blanket. So it would be really helpful if you could give me some kind of an idea of what kind of blanket that you want to make, because everybody has their own preference. So the size, the weight of yarn, that sort of thing. So I have a small baby blanket right here that it's small, and this is a beginner pattern. This is by Tin Can Knits. So something like that, or do you want a bigger throw or a really big Afghan for a bed or something like that? So this pattern was made with Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus. It's a really soft, 100%, no, it's, I have to put my glasses on, 94% Israeli cotton and 6% nylon. So it comes in solid colors and it comes in a variegated as well. So beautiful for a blanket. So I wanted to just go through the process of getting a pattern or looking for a pattern on Ravelry, because that is where we'll be able to figure out together it will help me figure out what you want, and we'll be able to figure out what yarn to use and how much we're going to use. So I got a small little high-level tutorial on Ravelry how to find patterns. So I'm going to use this Barocco Vintage Chunky as our example for today. So I just have a few colors to show you today, but there's quite a few colors on my website as well. So this is the Barocco Vintage Chunky. And so come on over and I'll show you a little bit on Ravelry.
All right, so we're at the computer now, and you'll have to bring up the Ravelry website onto your computer if you don't already have it bookmarked like I do right here. Then if you do a simple search for Ravelry here. So it should be the first link that comes up in the list, so we'll click on that. You'll have to join. Now, Ravelry is free. You don't have to put any credit card information in there. You do have to put your email address and create a new username and password, but they don't send you spam or anything like that. So you will have, if you're not already a member, you'll have to join. So let's take a look at my account here. So the top, these tabs here are really how you get around the website, and we're going to come back to patterns because that's what we're going to focus on. But yarns, if you have a yarn at home and you're not sure what kind of project that you want to make, you could search for it here and you could see what other people have done or any suggestions for that yarn. So Friends is a great way to keep connected with other knitters or crocheters, and I see one of my friends here. This is Annika Poloski, who is the dyer behind Dragon Strings, and she's also an instructor at Twist. So it looks like Annika has just completed a sweater, so that's great. May pullover she made for herself. She used BC Garn Sarah Tweed, and she purchased that at Eliza's Buttons in Barrie. And Annika completed that sweater on April 3rd. So she's added some nice photos, and look at that, isn't that gorgeous? Beautiful knitter. Let's take a look at a couple of her photos. And there she is wearing the sweater right there. So that's friends. There's groups in here, and I don't use this section very much, but there's a lot going on in here. The other tab I wanted to show you quickly was my notebook. And in here I have all of my well, actually not all of my projects. I'm not very good at keeping this up to date, but these are the projects that some of the projects I'm working on, some of them that I'm finished, and it's a great way to keep track of what needles you're using, what hooks you're using, because you know, you can forget, especially like this Sophie's Universe that I'm making. I've kind of forgot what size hook I was using. So the other tab in here is your library. So any patterns that you purchase or free ones that you put in your library are all going to be in here. So I have 225 patterns and they're all categorized so I can find them all really easily here. So let's go back and take a look at the patterns, and we'll go through the process of finding a throw pattern using bulky yarn. So this page here, you can either tell it to just show you the crochet patterns, the knitting patterns, or both. You can also use this search bar here as well. I always go into the advanced search link right here. So let's take a look in there. So if I take a look, there's 584,000 knitting patterns that it's showing me right now. So we want to drill down and take a look at exactly what we're trying to find. So if you look down the left-hand side, you can choose clothing, accessories, medical, home, toys, pets, and components. So we're looking for a blanket, so I'm going to click on home, blanket, and I'm going to make a throw this time. So I'm going to check on the throw category. And if we scroll down a little bit further, there you can say you only want to see them with a photo, of course. And then the availability, you can say I only want to see the free ones, so you could click on that tab, and you still have 1,800 free throw patterns, which is great. Or if you, most of the time I don't check anything here, but a lot of the times I will only look at the purchase ones. The next section is the attributes. So let's say, for instance, you want to put some cables in your blanket. So you can say cables. So we still have 479 patterns for a throw with cables. So I'll just uncheck that for now. And the other thing that we want to look at today is the weights. So we're going to make our blanket with the Barocco Vintage Chunky yarn. It's a bulky yarn, so I'm going to make sure that that's clicked for me right there. So now I still have 316 patterns that are for throws in a chunky yarn, and they're knitting. So the other things you could go through if you were making a sweater, and you could say if it was for a baby or for an adult or a girl or a boy. This is kind of an interesting or a useful section if you have yarn at home and you only have, say, 400 yards of it. What can I make with 400 yards? So you could check that as well. So let's just take a look at all the patterns. So we have 316 patterns that are possibilities for us here. So we'll just take a look. Now you can click on any of these patterns and see what yarn they've used or the needle size that they suggest. So there's lots of great patterns in here. So let's go in and we'll take a look at one of them. So I'm going to take a look at this throw pattern. It's called the Oxbow by the Plucky Knitter. And we can click on the photos and you can see, you can zoom in a little bit more, and that looks really lovely. I want to make that one, let's say. So the Barocco Vintage Chunky yarn, if I take a look at the yarn label, it's 100 grams skein, 136 yards, And the gauge is 14 stitches and 21 rows. Now the row gauge isn't going to really matter much with a blanket or a shawl, let's say, but if it was a sweater, then that is important, but not for this. And on the label, the suggested needle size is 6 millimeter. So then if we take a look at this pattern, it's made with bulky weight. The gauge is 14 stitches and 6 millimeter needles. So this is actually a perfect pattern for that yarn. And so the yardage is 225 yards to make this blanket, and here is the dimensions. So it's 48.5 by 56 and 3/4. So how much yarn are we going to need? Let's figure that out. So let's go down to the calculator, and we need 2,025 yards in total, divided by each of our skeins is 136 yards. Equals, so you're going to need 15 skeins of the Barocco Vintage Chunky to make this throw. So yeah, there's lots of good information. Now you can see she used they have their own yarn company, the Plucky Knitter Cambridge, their yarn, and for that yarn you'd need 16 skeins, but they must be a little bit shorter or something. So the other thing in here is you can see other people that if you could click on projects over here, you can see where other people have made the same throw. There's information in here on what yarn they've used, what color they've used. So here we can see other people's blankets, and lots of people put notes in here. This blanket is fantastic. For instance, you can click on this person's profile here, and you can see her photos, and if she put any notes in here, that's always useful. So the last thing that I wanted to show you is that if you find a pattern on here, and so this one for example is $6 US, so you can either buy it by using your credit card or PayPal if you want, but I can also buy the pattern in the store. So I can buy it for you and then put it on your invoice or something like that and email it to you, or print it and put it in your package and send it to you as well. So that's the best way to find a pattern in Ravelry. Now there's a lot more to Ravelry that I'm not going into on this tutorial, but if you have any questions, then you can give me a call and or send me an email. If you want me to put yarn together for a pattern that you found on here, just send me the name of the pattern and the designer, and I can get everything together for you. Okay, thanks.
So there you go. There's a quick introductory into Ravelry for those that maybe are getting back into knitting, or you're new, or you're new-ish and you're not really sure where to find patterns and how to figure it out. So I hope that helped. And if you have any more questions or you need some yarn, then you can send me an email at shop@twistyarn.ca. Thanks.